I've been rewatching the Fox X-Men franchise in preparation for Deadpool and Wolverine, and I realized one consistent thing. The lore is really inconsistent. For instance, Charles loses the ability to walk in 1962, but is seen walking again later in 1979, and even later in 1986. The fuck, Charles? You lying to us? Or did the screenwriters not watch each other's movies and slowly start stringing together a franchise of films that had nothing to do with each other? It's that second one. The X-Men film timeline is notoriously a chaotic mess, especially in comparison to the MCU. Luckily for us, the MCU gave us a proper scapegoat that'll finally make these films and their respective timelines make sense. The multiverse. They've been toying around with their version of it hard since 2021 in Loki, and they've given us plenty of answers by complete accident. For instance, it explained variants and how separate universes work. You see multiple different Loki variants in the show, some looking completely different and some sharing the same face as the one in the MCU. Kinda like how the Wolverine variant in Deadpool and Wolverine is Wolverine, but isn't the one from any of the X-Men movies. Or so I think. At the moment, I don't know if that's confirmed. That might bum you out because it isn't the Wolverine we've come to know and love from the OG films, but what if I told you you've actually been getting to know 3 different Wolverines this entire time? Yeah, I'm proposing that we've actually been watching 3 completely separate X-Men universes unfold throughout the years. Well, 4, including Deadpool. Now, before I get into everything, you might be asking yourself, how does it make it easier to watch these movies knowing that there's 4 different timelines of content I have to binge now? Simple. There are 0 plot holes now. Only certain films fit together, and I'm here to put together those pieces so you don't have to. The viewing order starts with the original X-Men films. Those first 3 films set up what I'm calling Universe A, which consists of X-Men, X2, X-Men Last Stand, The Wolverine, and Logan. Now I can already hear you freaking out because I didn't mention First Class or Days of Future Past. Well, that's because of one thing. They aren't and can't possibly be canon to the original films. In the first X-Men, Charles says that him and Magneto met when they were 17, and he's baffled to find out that Magneto has a helmet that can block him out. That doesn't make any sense the second you try to make First Class canon to Universe A. Our characters are clearly not 17, plus Charles is very aware of what Magneto's helmet is and what it represents. You could say Charles' dementia from Logan started kicking in real early back in the year 2000, but the biggest thing that messes with the continuity is Charles losing his ability to walk. In Universe A, he's seen walking completely fine in the year 1986, but he clearly loses his ability to walk in 1962. Yeah, there's that weird treatment from Days of Future Past, but that treatment dampens his mutant abilities, and he's clearly using them in 1986 when him and Magneto meet Jean in Universe A. This universe also predates Bone Claws. Like the source material, Wolverine got his claws along with Stryker's experiment and never had Bone Claws. We first see them in X-Men Origins and later in Days of Future Past, further proving my point that these have to be different versions of the characters. God damn, that's a lot of bullshit and we've barely started. So just a quick recap, Universe A consists of X-Men, X2, X-Men Last Stand, The Wolverine, and Logan. Honestly, if you watch it like that, it's a fun group of movies with a home run of an ending. Watching those films and ending it off with Logan feels like a true send-off to the franchise, as opposed to watching everything that came out in release order and then ending it with Logan. Besides, now the only plot holes you have to worry about are the very small casting inconsistencies in the first 3 films. Kitty Pryde is recasted in all 3 movies. She keeps showing up, but is never the same actress. The next film after that is X-Men Origins Wolverine. This was supposed to kick off a bunch of spin-off movies in the X-Men Origins franchise, but this movie bombed so bad that it never got close to having a sequel or anything like it. So it exists on its own in limbo. I'm considering it its own universe because Wolverine has bone claws, and we're introduced to completely different versions of Sabretooth, William Stryker, and Cyclops, who all appear in Universe A. Ain't no way Cyclops and Sabretooth casually just don't remember Wolverine in the first movie. And in X2, Stryker looks completely different. This concludes my point. The X-Men Origins universe will be known forward as Universe B. This film used to be optional, but due to the new movie, it seems like it'll finally matter in some way.
Hey, it's me! Don't scratch! Just cleaning up the timelines.
This leads us to the next group of films, what I'm calling Universe C. This would be X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. Now I can still hear people tweaking about me not including Days of Future Past in Universe A. Let me explain. Days of Future Past is a direct sequel to First Class. Although the movie opens in the distant future with all the X-Men characters we know played by the actors from Universe A, it's a completely separate timeline. I look at it as a parallel to Universe A with little tweaks to make the events work, which would be why the feature in this film is the way it is. This movie can be the convergence of the old and young characters for sure, but there's absolutely no way in hell these films are canon to Universe A, for a number of reasons. I already brought up things like Charles' inability to walk and Wolverine's bone claws, but there are also things like all the recasts that fuck everything up. Usually I don't care that much about recasts. If it's done well, no one will complain, but that's the problem. It's never done well in these movies, and this one suffers the most from it. Stryker, Toad, and Bolivar Trask were all recast for this movie. We have 2 different Toads, and now we're on to our 3rd William Stryker. Trask pisses me off the most, though. He's played by Bill Duke in Last Stand, and then Peter fucking Dinklage in Days of Future Past. These are not the same guy. They couldn't be further from the same guy. I feel like that's a lot of proof to show that this movie can't possibly, through any rhyme or reason, fit into the original timeline. Except one scene.
Morning, Logan. Late start.
Fuck! Easy fix. This is a branch timeline that's created when they stop the events in the past. The last scene is not connected to Universe A. It's only connected to the beginning of this film. I like to think that the distant future in this movie is a lot like how they did Days of Future Past in the cartoon. Meaning, the distant future in this film is just a distant apocalyptic future. It has no correlation with the other movies. As far as I'm concerned, the future is as important now as it was in the 90s. People are just going to keep going back in time to fix it until they do. And that's literally what they're doing here. The films after Days of Future Past follow the events of Mystique's failed assassination of Trask. They each take place like 10 years apart, and the characters never age. So as I said earlier, Universe C consists of X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. That brings us to Universe D.
Hey, yeah, I wanna shoot, baby.
Universe D is just Deadpool. His films have always existed outside the main X-Men universes and somehow managed to also be the most comic accurate. His universe even has its own chopped together X-Men team, with a Colossus much different from the Universe A variant, and a version of the team that doesn't age from Universe C. Although I'm pretty sure that second one is just a visual gag. So I'm just gonna recap everything one last time to make it easier for me and the rest of you. Universe A consists of X-Men, X2, X-Men Last Stand, the Wolverine, and Logan. Universe B consists of only X-Men Origins Wolverine. Universe C consists of X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. And Universe D consists of Deadpool and Deadpool 2. If you watch the films like that in their own separate universes, you might have a more fun time enjoying it. Phew! I think that's all of them. Fuck you! Fuck you! I refuse to watch this movie. I'm never gonna watch this movie!